There is a single letter written somewhere on a piece of paper most of you have not looked at in years that may be quietly shaping the way your body has been aging for the past 60 or 70 years. You probably learned it once, maybe before a surgery, maybe at a blood donation, maybe in childhood. And then you put it away and never thought about it again. Your blood type. And here is what most people over 60 have never been told. Researchers, by following thousands of people for decades, have discovered something quite remarkable. Different blood types are observed to age differently. There are different predispositions and subtle nuances that might otherwise be overlooked. Different places where damage tends to gather first, often years before anyone notices. Please don't panic. I want to say two things right at the start. First, your blood type is not your destiny. The science is clearer about this than the internet suggests. Second, what your blood type actually offers you is something more valuable than a warning. It offers you a map. And once you can read the map, you can stop guessing about your own health. In this video, I want to walk you through each of the 4 blood types, one at a time. What the research has suggested, what the studies have actually measured, what it means for someone over 60, and, perhaps most importantly, what you can reasonably do about it tonight, without buying anything, without panicking, and without losing a single hour of sleep to worry. The information in this video is provided for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Because every individual's health situation is unique, the details shared here should not be used as a substitute for the specialized guidance of a qualified healthcare professional. Please consult with your doctor before making any changes to your medications, health routines, or treatment plans. Reliance on any information presented in this video is at your own discretion, and we encourage you to seek individualized medical care for any specific health concerns. I want you to watch this entire video until the end. This is going to be one of the most interesting conversations we've had on this channel. My name is Marsuc Reeve, and let's begin. Before we talk about the individual blood types, I need to introduce you to a protein. Just one. It will make everything else in this video easier to understand. The protein is called von Willebrand factor. It was named after a Finnish doctor named Erik von Willebrand, who first described it in the 1920s. Its job is to help your blood clot. When you cut yourself shaving, von Willebrand factor is one of the proteins that rushes to the site of the injury, helps platelets stick together, and starts the process of sealing the wound. Without it, you would bleed too easily. With too much of it, your blood would clot more eagerly than is good for you. Here is the part that is especially relevant. Your blood type, the letter on your record, your A or B or AB or O, directly influences how much von Willebrand factor circulates in your body every single day, your entire life. People with type O blood carry, on average, about 25% less von Willebrand factor than people with other blood types. People with type AB carry the most. That small difference, sustained over decades, is one of the threads that connects blood type to how the cardiovascular system ages. More von Willebrand factor means a slight tendency toward thicker, more clot-prone blood. Less means the opposite. Across a single afternoon, this difference is invisible. Across 70 years of circulation, it adds up. Now, and this is critical, I am not telling you that high von Willebrand factor means you will have a stroke, or that low von Willebrand factor means you won't. The research is much more subtle than that. What I am telling you is that this protein is one of the mechanisms underneath the picture researchers see when they compare blood types across large populations. Hold on to it. It will come back. Let's start with the most common blood type in the world. About 45% of people on the planet have type O blood. If you are type O, you are in good company. And the first thing the research consistently shows is something that sounds, on the surface, like very good news. Type O individuals appear to have, on average, the lowest cardiovascular risk profile of any of the four major blood groups. Lower von Willebrand factor. Lower levels of a related protein called factor VIII. Cleaner, thinner blood flow over time. In multiple large studies, type O has been associated with the lowest rates of coronary artery disease and venous thromboembolism among the ABO groups. For someone over 60, that is genuinely a useful piece of information. If you are type O, your baseline cardiovascular biology has been working in your favor your entire life, in a small but real way. But here is where I have to be honest with you, because honesty is what this channel is built on. The protective effect is modest. It does not mean type O people don't have heart attacks or strokes. They absolutely do. It means that, across very large populations, the average risk runs slightly lower. The lifestyle choices you make, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your physical activity, your smoking history, your diet, matter dramatically more than your O status. There is also a quieter side to the type O story. Researchers have found that individuals with that blood type have been observed to have a slightly increased susceptibility to Helicobacter pylori infection, which can increase the risk of chronic gastritis, ulcers, and gastrointestinal complications over many years. The mechanism appears to involve the surface chemistry of type O red blood cells, which the bacterium can bind to more efficiently. I want to be very careful here. The vast majority of type O people will never develop a serious problem from H. pylori. Many never even know they have it. But if you are type O and you have persistent stomach symptoms, heartburn that won't quit, bloating that doesn't respond to dietary changes, a vague discomfort that has become normal, that's worth mentioning to your doctor. A simple test can detect H. pylori, and treatment is straightforward when it's needed. The summary for type O: strong cardiovascular baseline, slightly more digestive vigilance worth paying attention to. Overall, a favorable profile. About 40% of people carry type A blood. If you are one of them, the research suggests your story is a little different. Type A individuals carry higher von Willebrand factor levels than type O. Not as high as AB, but measurably elevated. This translates in long-term studies to a modestly higher risk of clot-related cardiovascular events. Again, modestly. Not dramatically. Not in a way that should make you feel doomed. But there is a second layer to the type A story that researchers have been examining, and I find it the most interesting piece. Some studies have suggested that type A individuals may carry a slightly more reactive stress biology, higher baseline cortisol levels, a cardiovascular system that responds more intensely to psychological pressure, clotting activity that runs a touch higher under stress. It's important to note that the research linking blood type and stress is not as conclusive as the findings on blood type and clotting, but there is a thread worth thinking about. Cortisol is your body's primary stress hormone. In short bursts, it is essential. It helps you respond to threats, mobilize energy, get through a hard day.
But cortisol that stays elevated for years without recovery does real biological work. It can damage the inner lining of blood vessels. It can drive up blood pressure. It can promote insulin resistance. It contributes to what researchers now call inflammaging, the low-grade chronic inflammation that accumulates over the decades and underlies many of the conditions of aging.
If you are type A and you have lived a high-pressure life, a demanding career, a difficult family situation, financial stress that never quite resolved, the research suggests, gently, that your biology may have been paying a tax that other blood types pay less of. That doesn't mean you've damaged yourself. It means that the protective habits, proper sleep, deliberate recovery, blood pressure monitoring, even simple things like a daily walk, are not luxuries for you. They are part of how your body stays well. The good news, and I want to say this clearly, the cost of unmanaged stress is not permanent. Blood pressure responds to changes in habit. Cortisol patterns shift with sleep. Vascular health, even later in life, is remarkably responsive to simple, consistent care. The biology is not the final word. It is information. About 11% of people have type B blood. If you are type B, the research describes a profile that is, in some ways, the most flexible of the four. Type B individuals appear to tolerate a wide range of dietary environments and to adjust to nutritional variation more comfortably than some other blood groups. That's a real advantage, and it should not be dismissed. But, and there is always a but with biology, researchers examining autoimmune disease patterns across blood groups have noticed some elevated associations in type B individuals with certain inflammatory and autoimmune conditions. I want to be very careful about how I describe this because the research is mixed, the effect sizes are modest, and the absolute risk for any one individual remains low. What does it mean in practical terms? If you are type B and you have noticed patterns of unexplained fatigue, joint stiffness that comes and goes without obvious cause, inflammatory flares that don't fit a clear pattern, or a thyroid that has been quietly underperforming, those are not things to ignore in any blood type. But for type B individuals, they may deserve a slightly lower threshold for a conversation with your doctor. This is also the moment to mention something that applies to all blood types, but bears special emphasis here. Autoimmune conditions are notoriously hard to catch early because they don't announce themselves. They drift in slowly, symptom by symptom, each one explainable on its own. Collectively, they form a picture that takes a careful clinician to recognize. If something has been bothering you for a while, anything that has become normal without being explained, please bring it up at your next visit. A good doctor would rather hear about 3 small things that turn out to be nothing than miss one that turns out to be something. Type AB is the rarest of the 4 blood groups. About 4% of people in most populations carry it. And here, the research is the most striking of all the blood types, which is why I want to be especially careful with how I describe it. Type AB individuals carry, on average, the highest von Willebrand factor and factor VIII levels of any blood group, about 40% higher than type O in the studies that have measured it directly. That's a meaningful biological difference. In a major American study called the Regards Study, which followed more than 30,000 adults over many years, researchers found that the Regards study found that people with blood type AB have a significantly higher risk of stroke compared to those with blood type O. This is a significant finding, directly supported by robust data,
and I believe it's crucial to present it clearly. The same study identified high factor VIII levels as accounting for about 60% of that association, which fits the biological story we've been telling all evening. A separate study published in the journal Neurology and also based on the regards data found that type AB individuals were also at higher risk for cognitive impairment later in life. The proposed mechanism involves not large dramatic strokes, but the slow microscopic decline of small blood vessels in the brain, what neurologists call small vessel disease. This is the kind of damage that builds quietly over years, often without any obvious symptoms, until it begins to affect memory or processing speed. Now, here is the part I want you to hold on to, because the internet rarely says it. A risk of 1.83 times means that if 100 type O people in a given group develop a condition, roughly 183 type AB people in a comparable group might. It does not mean stroke is inevitable for type AB. The absolute risk for any individual remains relatively low. And this is the most important word in this entire video: modifiable.
Blood pressure control. Regular physical activity. Not smoking. Managing diabetes if you have it. Treating high cholesterol if appropriate for you. These factors, taken together, dwarf the effect of blood type. A type AB person who manages their cardiovascular risk factors well can absolutely outperform a type O person who ignores theirs. Biology gives you the starting position. Habits decide where you finish. If you are type AB, I would not want you to walk away from this video frightened. I would want you to walk away informed. Talk to your doctor. Ask about your blood pressure. Ask about your cholesterol. Ask whether anything in your family history changes the conversation. That is the work that actually moves your odds. Not panic, not supplements, not internet wellness trends. The boring, careful, consistent stuff. That's where the real protection lives. Here is something the dramatic videos almost never tell you, and I think it is the most important point of the entire night. Recent research has shown that the association between blood type and stroke is meaningfully stronger in younger adults than it is in older adults. In the most recent meta-analyses, the link between ABO blood group and early-onset stroke, strokes before age 60, is reasonably clear. The link between blood type and later-onset stroke is much weaker. What does that mean for someone over 60? It means that the conventional risk factors, blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, smoking, atrial fibrillation, physical inactivity, quietly take over as the dominant drivers of stroke risk as you age. Blood type fades into the background. The variables you can actually do something about move into the foreground. I tell you this not to dismiss what we've been discussing, but to put it in proper proportion. Your blood type matters a little. Your blood pressure matters enormously. Your activity level matters enormously. Your relationship with your doctor matters enormously. If you only have energy for one thing in this video, let it not be worrying about a letter you can't change. Let it be a fresh look at the things you can. You may have noticed I haven't said much about the positive or negative that follows your blood type letter. There's a reason for that. The Rh factor is real, and it matters for transfusions and for pregnancy. But the research connecting Rh status to long-term aging outcomes is much less developed than the research on the ABO groups. There are some interesting threads, studies looking at immune signaling and inflammatory response, but I don't think the evidence is strong enough yet for me to give you confident advice on it. When it is, I'll come back and tell you. For now, I'd rather say less than overstate what we actually know. So let me bring it together for you. Blood type appears, in well-designed research, to influence the way your body manages clotting, inflammation, and circulation over a lifetime. Type O carries a modestly favorable cardiovascular profile, with slightly more vigilance warranted for the gut. Type A carries a slightly more reactive stress biology, where protective habits matter especially. Type B is metabolically flexible, with a small extra reason to take vague autoimmune symptoms seriously. Type AB carries the most significant association with stroke risk and cognitive change later in life, and deserves the most careful attention to the modifiable factors that drive those outcomes. But here is what every blood type shares. The risk attached to biology is a tendency, not a sentence. The lifestyle factors you can actually control, blood pressure, activity, sleep, diet, blood sugar, regular medical care, outweigh the influence of your blood group, especially as you age. If you don't know your blood type, that's worth knowing. Ask at your next doctor's visit. It costs almost nothing and gives you one more piece of personal information for the map. If you do know it, use it as one input, not as a verdict. The people who age well are not the ones with perfect blood types. They are the ones who took the information they had, however imperfect, and acted on it consistently. The internet wants you to be afraid of your own biology. I am asking you to be curious about it instead. Curiosity is the more useful emotion. It leads to questions, to conversations with your doctor, to small, consistent actions. Fear leads to scrolling, and scrolling leads to nothing. If this video helped you understand your own body a little better, please leave a comment letting me know your blood type. If you know your blood type, please share it in the comments. And one thing you took away from tonight. Share this video with anyone in your life over 60 who might want to hear the calm version of this story. Take care of yourself. Speak to your own doctor about anything that concerns you, because they know you in a way no video ever could. And remember, your biology is not your fate. It is your starting point. The rest is up to you, and to the small, steady decisions you make tomorrow morning and the morning after that. This video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Consult your doctor before making health changes. See you on the next video.